On the morning of July 24th, we flew from St. Petersburg to Moscow, arriving there in time for lunch at our hotel, which was within walking distance of Red Square. The Church of All Saints is one of the oldest churches in Moscow. A notable feature of the church is its leaning bell tower, which you can barely detect in this photograph. In 1930, the church was closed and used during the 30s as a place of mass executions. In 1991, the building was returned to the Russian Orthodox Church. Red Square is considered the central square of Moscow and of all of Russia because Moscow's major streets, which connect to Russia's major highways, originate from the square. The name came about because the Russian word for red can also mean beautiful. This word, with the meaning beautiful, was originally applied to St. Basil's Cathedral and was subsequently transferred to the square itself. St. Basil's Cathedral is officially known as the Cathedral of the Intercession of the Blessed Virgin on the Moat. It was built from 1555 to 1561 on orders from Ivan the Terrible and commemorates two important victorious military campaigns. The building is shaped as a flame of a bonfire rising into the sky, a design that is found nowhere else in Russian architecture. The Soviets, in their anti-theist campaign, closed it as a place of worship, but maintained it as a museum, in which state it exists today. The early part of the 17th century was a time of transition between ruling dynasties in Russia, marked also by conflict with the occupying Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, civil uprisings, impostors and usurpers, and a famine that killed one-third of the population. It was a period of time officially known as the Time of Troubles. Kuzma Minin, a merchant, along with Dmitry Pozarsky, a prince, gathered an all-Russian volunteer army and expelled the forces of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth from Moscow in 1612, thus putting an end to the Time of Troubles. This statue in their honor was erected in 1813. The word Kremlin means fortress, and there are many Russian cities with Kremlins in them. The Kremlin with which we are most familiar, however, is a historic fortified complex at the heart of Moscow, overlooking Red Square to the east. Inside its walls are 5 palaces, 4 cathedrals, and the enclosing Kremlin wall with Kremlin towers. It has long been considered the center of the Russian government, and today it serves as the official residence of the President of the Russian Federation. The embalmed body of Vladimir Lenin has been on public display in Red Square since shortly after his death in 1924. The body was removed in 1941 and evacuated to Siberia when it appeared that Moscow might be in danger of invasion by the Nazis, but it was returned and the tomb reopened after the war. More than 10 million people visited Lenin's tomb between 1924 and 1972. Joseph Stalin's embalmed body shared a spot next to Lenin's from the time of his death in 1953 until 1961, when Stalin's body was removed as part of Nikita Khrushchev's de-Stalinization. Fortunately, we were not given the opportunity to view the body. Prince Posarsky, one of the two men who helped bring to an end the time of troubles, attributed his success to the divine help of an icon of the Virgin Mary from the city of Kazan. He financed construction of a church to the Virgin on this site in Moscow in 1625, which was replaced in 1636 after a fire in 1632. Stalin ordered the church demolished in 1936. After the fall of the Soviet Union, the Kazan Cathedral was the first church to be completely rebuilt. The tomb of the unknown soldier is dedicated to the Soviet soldiers killed during World War II. In 1997, a Guard of Honor of the Kremlin Regiment, previously assigned to the Lenin Mausoleum, was restored at the tomb of the unknown soldier by federal law. A changing of the guard ceremony takes place every hour.
Hey! Спасибо.
Georgy Konstantinovich Zhukov was a Soviet career officer in the Red Army, who, in the course of World War II, played a leading role in the campaign to liberate the Soviet Union and other nations from the Nazi occupation, and ultimately to conquer Berlin. He is the most decorated general officer in the history of the Soviet Union and Russia. This is a 1996 reconstruction of a 17th century gate and towers, which became known for a chapel inside one of the towers containing a copy of an icon of the Virgin Mary, which supposedly had miraculous healing powers. A new copy of this icon was included in the reconstruction. The famous state-run Moscow department store known as GUM's is now a shopping mall. Built over a period of 40 years during the 19th century, this church, like many others, was destroyed by Stalin in 1931. It was reconstructed in the 1990s. The original church was the scene of the 1882 world premiere of Tchaikovsky's famous 1812 overture. Maidensfield is a historical medical campus built in 1887 to 1897 on the southern outskirts of Moscow. Novodevichy Convent near Maidensfield was founded in 1524. In 1922, the Bolsheviks closed down the convent and turned it into the Museum of Women's Emancipation. After serving in various other capacities during the Soviet years, in 1994, nuns were allowed to return to the convent, and in 1995, religious services were resumed on patron saints' days. Just outside the walls of the convent is the Novodevichy Cemetery. Inaugurated in 1898, it is the most famous cemetery in Moscow and contains the graves of many Russians of political, military, artistic, and literary fame.